I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors over at Jim Dunlop and MXR Pedals. We couldn't be luckier to have these guys on board with us. I personally use these products, and you should too. Find out more about them at jimdunlop.com. Let's get on to the podcast. Hey guys, this is Zach from the Anti-Heroes podcast, and I want to welcome our newest sponsor to the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Can you believe that? Anti-Heroes listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/antiheroes. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/antiheroes. Thank you so much, and support all the folks at DistroKid because they're doing amazing work, and we couldn't be happier to have them on board. Hey there, and welcome to the Anti-Heroes podcast with your host, Zach Blair. I am Zach Blair. Hey there, how you doing? I'm doing good. I never know when these go out there. I never know when you're listening, so it's hard to sort of give you real-time updates. But, you know, we do, the Rise Against band has a fall tour. Maybe I'm in the middle of that when this comes out. I don't know. Maybe this is Christmas when you're listening to this. And hopefully it is. And if it is, I hope you're having a good one. I personally am still on my guitar journey, as I always will be and always am. I'm constantly learning. Geez, I wish if I could do it all over again. I wish I could have had YouTube when I was starting or playing. Because the only way we learned stuff was like Guitar World, the tablature. Guys before us didn't even have tablature. They just had their ears and putting the needle back. Could you imagine? That's how they did it. Now with YouTube, you can slow the video down to where the pitch stays the same, and you can just actually go note for note. It's crazy. But anyway, yeah, I will get into my episode today and my guest today. My guest today is Pete-Loeffler from the band Chevelle. Now, Pete and I have met over the years, festivals, backstage. He's from Chicago. Rise Against are from Chicago, even though I don't live there. So there's sort of a history there. But I don't know. You'll hear in this podcast that, you know, we sort of bonded over the pandemic. We have a lot in common. Our bands are in similar positions. I was able to text him about just life shit, about how he's getting through it, how it was affecting him not playing, not touring, not doing the thing that we've both done our entire adult lives. And he became a friend. We sort of, you know, we bonded. You'll hear me talk about it on here. We also talk about the precarious position of being in a band with two of your brothers and how that did not work out, at least for one of the brothers, and Pete, well, and his other brother, Sam. But Pete and Sam are still going strong, and they are working on new music. I think it's, you know, hear that it's going to be out soon. They're still out there. They're still touring. They still do very, very well. And he's just a joy. He's a lovely human being, and I really like the guy a lot. And he's a friend. You know, like I said, we sort of trauma bonded at a really difficult time for everybody. So I'm going to shut up and let you hear me chat with Pete-Loeffler. Hey, Pete.
Yo, what's up?
How's it going, buddy?
It's good. It's good.
You and me, we've met and like run into each other at festivals and stuff like that, but we kind of got tight kind of over the pandemic, just texting about each other's shared experiences, about what was going on, you know? About
It was great.
Yeah. It was nice having that. I think we had reached out about like what's going on with you and how are you dealing with this? I remember being at a Target texting with you about the toilet paper aisle or something and saying like, oh shit, like there's nothing here or something like that. It was really nice to have somebody that does what I do and was also going through it. Yeah, I think it bonded us.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember how we connected, but after a while we were like isolated COVID buddies for a minute.
We were.
It was nice, right?
It was really nice. I was very thankful. I remember telling my wife, like, I'm really thankful for Pete. Like, I can go, dude, you were kind of the only person at the time that did pretty specifically what I do at very similar levels. And I was able to sort of commiserate with in real time, and not sound, it's strange. You and me are at similar levels. And what I mean by that is like, it's real easy to sound pompous when you're talking to somebody that isn't playing certain venues or isn't touring in a bus. And, and you and I both had done every shade of that to where now we, it's like we have earned our place of where we are. And so it's really,
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? It's really hard to sort of commiserate with somebody else. It's like, oh, boo fucking who, guy. You know what I mean? And our band still has a long way to go. And there's much bigger bands than we are. But it was really nice to be able to talk to somebody that really has the same shared experience,
Yeah, and I agree with you. I hope that we both have a long way to go because COVID made you think, oh, is this it? Is it over? Is it ever going to come back? Because like I had my crew calling us saying, what are you going to do now? Like, do you have a plan B? Because this is all you've done for 25 years.
No shit.
Which, I mean, like 25 years, meaning, I don't know, but when you started gigging, like even shitty gigs where like, I was like 16, 17 years old when I started playing shitty gigs, like backyard barbecues and then blossoms and other things. But that was a weird time, man. I don't know.
It is a weird time.
But we did connect and it was fun. It was good. And we vented and learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I think I was on the phone with you at one point and you were like, oh shit, hey man, I gotta hit you back. I think you said like Pat Smear was texting you or calling you or something like that. Did that happen or did I just make that up?
No,
it was like, are you friends with him?
I am. And he had done, and I've talked about it on here. It's funny because he had done a very sweet thing for me. And when I say I know Pat Smear, like I probably know Pat Smear as well as anybody else knows Pat Smear, which is everyone sort of reveres who that guy is. And we've had the fortune of touring with the Foo Fighters a few times now. And I've always just been very sort of cordial to him. I didn't want to get in his space. I didn't want to irritate him or bug him. And so we've been very like, hi, how you doing? Yeah. And he had a guitar called a Robin Artisan. And a Robin Artisan was something they made like the Robin Company out of Houston, Texas, actually. In the 80s, they made like shredder, like kind of go fast looking sort of Jackson ESP, Ibanez sort of style guitars.
Right.
And they made a guitar that looked exactly like a mix of an SG and a Les Paul. And it was called an Artisan. Okay. And I think they got a cease and desist from Gibson almost immediately because it is exactly an SG shape. It's just thick like a Les Paul and it's binded. It has a toggle switch up top. No, a toggle switch is down below. But it's got a bracket pit guard like a Les Paul. Anyway, so they made like 250 of them. Well, Pat, I found out from touring with him, he has one criteria for his guitars is he wants 2 points. He wants like an SG style, but any other guitar has to have 2 points. So all of his guitars have 2 points, and which I think is great. And he had like 4 of these things in his guitar boat. And I was like, what in the fuck is that guitar? So I got up close and he showed me and we were talking. And then his tech is a friend of mine. So I started looking on Reverb for one of these things forever. Couldn't find one. Finally, I found one, and it was during pandemic. It was during the time of you and me like really sort of communicating. And of course, the guy sent it with no signature required. I bought it. And in Austin, I don't know about where you are, but there was a big porch pirate like cabal. And so it was on my Nest Cam, man. Those guys, it was broad daylight. They backed into my driveway. Dude he didn't even run. He just walked like it was nothing. Like he was delivering fucking
no biggie.
DoorDash. Yeah. Came, grabbed the guitar, threw it in his car and just took off and had something over his license plate. So I couldn't even get the license plate. Okay, so I was like, God damn it. So I put a thing out on Facebook. It's like, this is a discernible guitar. There was only at this amount.
That sucks.
Right. And His tech, Pat Smear's tech, is Facebook friends with me. And so I got a number that I didn't recognize. Somebody was texting me, like, what was the serial number on your Robin, on your guitar? And I was like, it was 30. Like, it was the 30th one made. And he said, how would you like number 15? I know. He was like, how would you like number 15? And I was like, did you steal my guitar? To this person. And he goes, this is Pat. And it was Pat Smear. And he sent me one of his, which I still have.
Oh.
I know.
Oh.
And so that was when that was going on, when you and me were talking. That he
nice dude.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, I found out, I've told that story a few times now, and I found out that he does that. Like, he's just a generous guy like that. He's just, he's one of the classic cases of like, meet your idols, there's the don't meet your idols, but yeah, he's just a great guy. And so I'm going to have that guitar. Dude. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of guitars, you and me were also just talking recently, and you've gone through a few different guitars. I know you were like earlier in your career, it was like Paul Reed Smith, and then you used Fender stuff. And you rely pretty heavily on baritone stuff, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Well, I tuned down to drop A sharp is the lowest, and it just feels right to play that low on a baritone.
Sure, absolutely.
So I had some baritones commissioned. I basically, if I walk into a music store and there's a baritone, I'll buy it. Yeah. So I have sort of a big collection of those particular long scale guitars. They range from like 27-inch to 28 and a half, I think, which is like brutal to play. So I can't do it. It's like way out here. Yeah. But, if you're playing drop B and you're playing drop C, which most of the set is in those two, I can get away with a, 25 and a half inch Fender length. You
had the Fender, was it the Subsonic, the Strat, and those are discontinued, correct?
I believe so. Yeah. I don't think they've ever made them again. So I've got a bunch of those, and those sound great. You change out some of the electronics and the pickups and fat strings, throw them on there, and they work for heavy music. Yeah. Fenders can do pretty much anything. If you like, a lot of my guitars are Frankensteined, like fully. Like, I found the mahogany bodied Fender Strats, and then I ripped them apart, put the Seymour Duncan pickups in there, and they sound like Les Pauls, and they're fat. And they're great. But there are things you have to do to them. I did anyway.
I think that's the best way to do it, especially for guys like you and me that actually play these things, actually tour, and they don't. On a longer tour, they're getting beat up so much bad. My main guitar right now, it's a 81 Les Paul that's been broken a bunch, and switched the pickups out 1,000 times. I like Frankenstein guitars. I don't like precious.
Me too.
Guitars.
Years back, I was playing, I think it was like the Rialto Theater or something like that in like New Mexico or Arizona, or I could be wrong on that. But I fell off the stage. I hopped over some lights. It was like a really old theater onto a sub, and my right foot slid off, and I fell 5 feet to the concrete. Oh. And I broke my knee. I think it was my tibia and my right around my kneecap area. And tore a tendon and all that stuff. I was on crutches for 2 months.
Jesus.
But the guitar I was playing, I broke the headstock off. It was like, not the whole thing, but it was just like a chip. So where the tuners are. Right. It was done. But at the time, Dean was in the band, and he was like, hey, dude, give me that thing. I'm gonna glue that shit back together for you. So on the bus, he got clamps, and he's really good with woodworking and all that. And I was playing it like a couple days later.
Oh shit!
I couldn't believe it. I didn't know you could do that. Right. I thought you had to be like a luthier or whatever. So you can fix this shit, which is great because I love the battle scars. I love the patina. Yeah. Over the years, we work hard for that.
Yeah, sometimes Gibsons, well, most of the times, like if they're better after they're broken, I know a lot of the vintage snobs are gonna but if you're actually out there playing, they're stronger after they've been broken. They always break. The headstock is always going to pop on a fucking Les Paul if you've been playing it long enough. But, I noticed after you and I talked about that, I noticed that Fenders still offer the subsonic neck. Like, you can just buy the neck, and if you have a Strat that you like at home, you can just bolt that neck onto any Strat or Telly or whatever. They have the subsonic Telly neck as well, which I thought was really cool. Okay.
Do they offer that on their site or something?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
I've never even seen that.
I have to send
I
you
was
the
trying
link.
to get somebody to. I was trying to get somebody to do that for me years ago, but I mean, Fender's been cool to me. They built me a couple of custom things.
In real time, I'm going to send you this
Okay.
this thing.
But Fender's been cool. But as it is right now, I'm working with Joe Balaguer. I'm not sure how to say his last name yet, but he's a super kind fella who makes Balaguer guitars. So we're in the process of doing a custom build right now.
Well, that's exciting. And so you've been using those for a while, and those are working out for you?
Yeah, so I'm playing a Espada Balaguer right now, which is like a beast of a baritone.
Okay.
Heavy, big bodied guitar, it sounds great, but it's just a heavy guitar. And I'm not a massive dude. I'm, 5'9" and wiry. So every time, I start the set with it, I put it on, I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, I'm going to work.
Yeah.
I think it weighs like 11 pounds or something.
Oh shit.
I haven't weighed it, but yeah, so I'm working with him and fingers crossed that this works out, because he's a great dude, and he makes great stuff.
Was the baritone choice an early on decision, like when you started the band, or was it something that you just kind of figured over time? It just started, you were writing more and sort of drops and detunes and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, our first record, Point Number One, was done on standard tunings.
Oh, wow.
Not like thinking back, if I tuned down at all, I'm not even sure I did.
Oh wow.
It was so long ago. It was 90, 98,
Sure.
99. So no, I didn't start out that way, but then I went on tour and I met a bunch of people in the heavy scene, and I started talking and learning, and I got home and I started writing in drop D, and then I was like, well, this is cool, but what if I go to drop C?
Yeah.
Or drop B?
Just keep pushing it.
And then, yeah. But what happens is then you need to really watch your neck, the way the neck moves, and you really need to intonate properly and all that. So I had to go down that rabbit hole and learn all of that stuff. And then next thing you know, you got like 4 different tunings. And then if you need backups, then you need 4 more guitars. So you got 8 guitars. And then you're like, oh man, why didn't I just stay in one tune?
Right.
It's like, literally, this is so much.
Let me just figure out how to play this on this one tune. I interviewed Rob Flynn from Machine Head, and at one point he also made the decision. He just went complete baritone, like everything he does is on a baritone. And at the time, I was like, well, wait, that guy does a whole lot of shredder leads and stuff as well. And I was like, aren't those strings like 13s or something? He was like, no, I just use regular 10s, and it just is lower. The lower 3 strings are heavier gauge, but his higher 3 strings are a regular 10 set. I was like, huh, shit, I didn't realize you could even make that work.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, maybe that's better, and I should try that. I just use like 13s to 65, so they're all fat. And I like to dig in live. So I felt like I needed that, that string tension.
Yeah.
But I don't know, there's always something to learn, right? We toured with Machine Head. So yeah, I know that band well. And
well, I mean, if a guitar's set up well enough, you can have 13s on it and it still feels like you can still be pretty dexterous on it. I would just think that 10s on a baritone neck are going to be so rubber bandy, just sort of flappy.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I would think so too, but I mean, I don't solo a lot, so I like to bend, all that shit, but I don't shred.
So you
too much.
Did you start out with Paul Reed Smith? Like you were using Paul Reed Smith when you guys first started?
Going way back when, no, it was something I kind of graduated to. I got my first Paul Reed Smith when we were doing the album.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was like this for you, but we used to spend every red cent on the album. Like we didn't get signed and then go live it up. We spent everything, they were tiny record budgets anyway. But I did get a hold of a good guitar, and it was a used Paul Reed Smith that I recorded Point Number One with, I think the whole thing. And the first day, Steve Albini was in the studio and he was moving some mics and he knocked it over and it fell right onto its face. and, made that awful sound that,
Yeah.
when you're new to everything. It was our first, studio experience, and with a legendary producer, and he just was so embarrassed. And so he just freaked out. He was like, oh my, oh shit, I'll fix it. If anything's broke, I'll fix it. And I was like, it's okay, man. It's okay. Like inside I was like nervous,
Sure.
cause I was a kid. It was like the nicest thing I'd ever had. Now I don't care. I would have been like,
Sure.
Whatever, it's got a nick from Steve Albini on it now. That's great.
Yeah.
But in the time you're like, oh, I might have to get a whole new guitar to record now. But it was fine. I kind of went down that road with Paul Reed Smith for a minute, and then I just kind of hit a wall with them, and they went one way, and I just could never get them to see eye to eye with me about the flashiness of them.
Right.
They do a different thing, and that's great for them, and they had sort of the Santana thing, which is great for him, and it's great for other people, and the flashy maple tops and the flame this and all that.
Yeah.
It just wasn't my style. So I would always try and get the most like boring looking Paul Reed Smiths to play.
Right.
And they sound great, for heavy music and all that. But we toured a lot with Seven Dust, and Clint Lowry would always play those. So I think that's how I got turned on to those as well. But something around that. I wanted to play something like classic.
Yeah.
So I moved on to Fender, and I love them. And so now it's like live, it's like half Fender and half Balaguer, right now. I'm
glad you're pronouncing that the right. I've always said beleaguer. I don't know how to pronounce that fucking word.
I'm probably saying it wrong.
I mean,
right now.
I'm going to go with what you're saying. Yeah, the thing with Paul Reed Smith, it's like it's weird. They've always sounded so great. They play so great, but I think because of like exactly what you're saying, it's just never been my style because of that. And it's funny because now they are doing what looks like sort of a toned down, like even flat black. And
are they?
Yeah, I've noticed that. That might be their like SE line or whatever, SE or the cheaper line. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw behind you earlier. There's like you have one of those rectifier lunchbox heads. Are you a Mesa guy?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've always been a Mesa guy. Yeah.
Dude, it's so funny because yesterday I went to my space and I have a rack mountable dual rectifier. This is like 20-year-old amp or whatever. And the rack mountables are sought after. I played one when I was in Guar. It's what I had. So I got another one. And goddamn, I love those fucking amps.
Yeah, they do rip, and they're solid. They're tanks.
Yeah.
I toured over in Australia, and my Mark IV took a shit, which, I mean, they're tube amps, you
Sure.
never know what can happen. They're jostling around. I was in Perth, Australia, and the amp failed, and I borrowed a dual rec from the band before us, and it sounded way better than mine. It turns out he had modded it and stuff, but it was such a good amp. And I use everything in the studio though. There's no telling. Like, I mean,
yeah.
And now with the quad cortex stuff, we're using some of that now as well.
We're using that too. Yeah. And the sort of standard amps, Marshalls and Mesas, already the captures that are come in the quad cortex or in the Kemper or in the Fractal, the ones they've already captured, you're not going to capture a better one. It sounds great. All of the Mesa captures sound great. All of the Marshall captures, all of the, I have a hot rodded JMP head that's been hot rodded 1,000 times. I would capture that because that's not in there, but everything else is pretty in there. Like their dual rec or their Mark IV or whatever. It sounds fucking great.
Yeah. Can I tell you something funny about the quad cortex? So we just got off the road. So in between the studio time, we had booked these shows. Middle of the tour, I got sick, had to go home. So did Kemble. Canceled the tour for 3 weeks, rebooked the shows, came back.
Yeah.
But in this little mini tour, we did like a month of shows. I decided, I don't know what, I was just like in a weird mood. I was like, I'm going to play a new song. And we did. It's in Myrtle Beach. So I'm like, we're going to play a new song. What do you think? They're into it. So we play this song and it's not easy. And I get to the bridge and I'm realizing I don't love this bridge. In the moment, I'm playing this song live. It's the first time we've ever played it. No one's heard anything.
Yeah.
This is just a month ago or so, or 2 months ago. so we get home, and just this week we flew Kemble in to finish the record. I wrote an entire new bridge, and we recorded the entire thing because I didn't keep track of the tones of what we used on that song. So I'm like, we're just gonna throw the quad on here and retrack it all.
Okay.
And it came out so much better, in my opinion. And I love it now, but I was like, I'm wondering how this is all gonna meld, because we have different tube amp tones on the first and last parts of the song, and now the bridge is entirely different, you know.
Did you use a capture, like the quad version of whatever it is you had started the song with?
Yeah, we just used like a preset that I'd been working with Kemble on.
Oh.
Like, so he pulled it up, and then like we modded it a little bit here and there. But no, we didn't like, you know, take a capture of of an amp or anything like that. So, but it ripped. I was like, oh shit. I was worried, and then I got a rough back, and I was, no worries at all.
No shit.
But there's now going to be 2 versions of that song. There's one from Myrtle Beach, and then the one we're going to release is totally different.
Of course, kids recorded it on their phones and put it up already. Yeah. Well, it's a little, you know what? It's a little like,
I don't care.
Like Easter egg. It's a little like nod and a wink. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I think so.
2 little versions, you know?
Yeah. I was listening to your Walter Schreifels pod with your interview with him.
Yeah.
And of course, we're all fans of Quicksand. And, you know, we got a few stories with him. He used to be managed by Rose McGathy, who was one of our first managers.
Oh, no shit.
And it was Bill McGathy and Rose McGathy. And really, we were Rose's band.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, she passed away years ago. But she would manage, I think it was Rival Schools.
Okay.
Was that one of his bands?
Yeah.
And so one day we show up at her apartment, and he's there. Walter's there. And we're like, oh, shit, this is amazing. So he's like, what are you guys up to? Why are you in town? We didn't know him at all until, like, just a big fan of Quicksand. And we're like, we're doing, it was like Jimmy Fallon or something like that, one of those late night shows. And he's like, oh, cool. Can I come with? I don't know what that is like. And I'm like, whoa. Really? Like, you're like, to us, he was like this, you must have done everything at some point. I don't know.
For sure.
So anyway, he came with, and it was hilarious. We just like hung out. And
That's amazing.
Had a good time, and he got to see something.
That's so Walter Schreifels.
Yeah, and it's like that. By the way, is so stressful. Doing those shows.
Oh yeah,
it's not my favorite, but we got through it. We had a good time and all that. Anyway, so he was talking about on stage antics and like keeping your cool if shit happens. And he said he had an amp go down. And that made me think about like, because you were saying how like you have to keep it cool. You can't blow up, shit goes down, whatever. And it always does, whatever it is, you know. And have you seen this Jane's Addiction?
Yes.
This footage.
Jesus Christ.
That's what I was trying to get to through the long way. But yeah, kind of a bummer, because we're all kind of sitting here wondering what's going on there. Do you have an idea about that? Do you have any thoughts?
I heard, and I don't want to speak out of school, but I think it was a sound issue. The band's stage volume, apparently they are not on, amp profilers and shit. Because I don't know about you, but with us, we don't even have cabinets on stage anymore. And that might change, but a lot of bands that are on ears and on profilers don't have. So I guess their stage volume was crazy loud, and Farrell was having vocal trouble and could not hear himself. Even with his ears, he couldn't hear himself over how deafeningly loud the stage volume was. So, handled it that way. But I mean, holy shit, just seeing that as a guy that, we both deal with other personalities and, things come to a head. But I guess, that was early in the tour. If it was like 6 weeks in and he blew up because, we both know.
Tensions flare,
somebody's on your fucking nerves, and just hearing them chew, you're just like, shut the fuck up, You know what I mean? But yeah, I guess I saw a thing Dave Navarro posted today. Oh, it was a quote, and it was something about overstaying, like the magic of something can be lost if you sort of overstay your welcome or something like that. And like this thing you romanticize from your past, it was a fleeting moment, and that happened when it happened. And now maybe it's time to move on. And it's a drag if you're a Jane's Addiction fan, because that was the 4 original guys of, that hasn't happened much and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, God, I saw that happen in real time. Not in real time, but I just saw it right after it kind of happened. I was just like, shit, sometimes I get it, and I've probably been the
Yeah.
guy that somebody wants to hit, I mean, shit.
Oh man, I have so much shit I could talk about right now.
Well, let's back up a little bit. You've not only been in a band, which is hard because of personalities. Early on, they were both your brothers, and
Yeah.
still one is your
Yeah.
brother. But
Mm-hmm.
my brother and I also played together, and he is absolutely, my best friend, and we get along kind of oddly enough. We're very, very close. We always have been. We
Yeah.
both had trouble, kind of hard, situations happen, and so we banded together. But
Mm-hmm.
a normal brother situation is pretty tenuous and pretty tumultuous, and you had the three-piece of Chevelle were all brothers, which was just insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's how it started out.
Yeah.
It was three brothers. And, in some ways it was a good thing for a minute, because it kind of put us in that sort of interesting box, I guess, for some that are like, oh, how is that possible?
Right.
Like how can you, a three-piece rock band, and each brother pick the instrument they need to play
to make that work.
To make it work,
Yeah.
But turns out it was the worst idea after that minute, because, the first tour, our brother Joe was just not into it. And I don't think he had the knowledge or the ability to communicate it, that he didn't want to do it or didn't like it in some capacity. He was quite a bit younger, and
Right.
he ended up creating a lot of division, a lot of fights, a lot of like disturbing behavior happened out there. I mean, there was one point where he jumped into the back of the van on top of my brother Sam, who was under a blanket trying to take a nap, and he was pounding on him, And it was like, that's when we should have called it right then and there. It was like one of the first tours. We should have been like, well, so we pulled over in the van and trailer, and he jumped out and took off. We should have just called the tour there and gone home and said, we're going to rethink this whole thing, because when it goes violent, that's crossed a line.
Yeah.
I mean, like, these are emotions we're feeling. You need to like control yourself. And when somebody goes to violence, which is sadly what we saw Perry Farrell do, I love that band. I love Jane's Addiction. So I don't want them to end that way. That's
Sure.
Their legacy is way bigger and better than that. But going back to our situation, we weren't, I don't know, we thought maybe we could fix it. It just steadily stayed in that way. And it was, I won't go down too deep of that road because there's a lot of negativity, but that was our first sign that this was a bad idea.
Right.
I mean, to be in any kind of a business with family members is a bad idea.
It's tough. But
much less a band, which you were talking about, like you're kind of in this condensed area. Even if you're in a tour bus, you need space, and
you're
it's
married.
A little bit of like a marriage.
Yeah. It's you are married to 3 other, 4 other, 5 other, 2 other individuals.
Yeah.
And man, you better make it work. It's like people during, when some kind of monster came out, people were like, oh, clowning on Metallica for going to therapist. But it's like, I think every band should go to a therapist, man.
Mm-hmm. And we did too. We tried.
Good idea.
Even as 3 brothers, we tried. And the therapists all at the end of it would say, after like a couple of weeks, they'd be like, yeah, you guys just don't get along. Like we can't fix this.
Wow.
And not to, again, go too deep, but there was one person that did not get along.
Yeah.
So he just did not want, I don't know if he just didn't know how to explain himself in the way he needed to or what, but there was, it's funny you say you're best friends with your brother. I am too.
Yeah.
With my brother Sam. We're best buds. We've started this band together and we're going to finish it together.
Yeah.
However far it goes, however long, which I don't know about you, but I'm 47 now. So trying to dig up like topics and ideas and things is not as easy as it used to be.
Sure.
To write a song from start to finish takes me a little bit longer than it used to. And there was my buddy told me a quote the other day. He was like, I don't know who said it, but pertaining to like writers love having written and hate writing, something like that, because it's the process of getting there is so difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
You have to get through, you have to weed through. And I think that it goes along with music as well. You're writing music, you're being creative, anything creative. You know, the process can be so difficult, you just want to do anything else unless it's working. And then once it's done, you're like, I love that I went through that process.
Well, if I go back over just GarageBand demos and stuff, I find I block it all out and almost immediately when I'm done. And then I listen back like it was this sort of fever dream or something. And I listen back like, oh yeah. Which makes me feel like I was going through something when I did it, you know, and it almost like I'm listening to this for the first time or something. It's a really strange situation.
Yeah.
You know, it might be TMI and my business, but has that relationship at least been rekindled now that your brother's not in the band with you guys? Like, are you able to be friends now?
Oh, with Joe?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't spoken to him since.
Oh my God.
No.
Wow.
I think it was 2004.
Oh my
or 2005.
God, man. I would have thought like at least holidays and things like that, you know?
No, he didn't want to fix it.
That's
in fact,
shame.
the way I was speaking with him in the last time I spoke to him was, hey man, I still want to be your brother, but this isn't working. You clearly don't want to do it. And we all see that, and that's okay. It just isn't working. I can't do this with you.
Right.
And you need to move on. Like this is done. Especially because it was like the third or fourth time he quit. So when he says he didn't quit, it's not true.
Sure.
He may have gone back on that and said, well, now I don't want to quit, but he did.
Right.
So, and I was like, well, you quit. You did say it. And then you stormed off and took a train home while we flew.
Wow.
You took a train. You know, I don't know how he got on a train from wherever he was, but I don't know what his life is like now. I don't know, you know, we don't hang out.
Wow.
Thanks, like family functions. It doesn't happen. It's like, it's just too weird. I don't know if he has the capacity to move beyond that.
Sure.
But you have to look at yourself and say, like, what would I be walking into?
Yeah.
Like, what am I trying to save here? You know?
Well,
I mean, I try and get along with everyone. I try and patch it up. This is also an imperfect life we live.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something that I can fix necessarily.
Sure.
And I think I would be open to it, sure, but I don't know if there's possibility of that.
What's the old saying? Familiarity breeds contempt, and nothing makes you as familiar with somebody as basically being born and raised together, you know, like being around each other your whole life. You guys had a whole life's worth of arguments and disagreements and just living on top of each other. And then you try to start a band and do this real intimate, creative thing together.
Oh man, dude, I could tell you stories that your mouth would hit the floor. You're just how brutal it was.
Wow.
As three brothers, it was brutal. It was days where you just want to walk away and you didn't care. It was too hard. It was much too hard to be on a bus with him.
Wow.
I mean,
That's a real shame. That's a real, because it was such a cool idea. It was like, I remember going and seeing you guys as that lineup in Austin. It was before I lived in Austin. I don't know what I was doing in Austin, but
really?
Yeah. And you guys all, it was cool. It was such a cool thing because you guys all looked kind of similar. You were brothers. And it was just like, whoa, this is so rad. And I always had an affinity for bands that had brothers in them because I was always, you know, my earliest band that I did all the way through the 90s was with my brother. And then I did some things and then we had another band together. I always wanted to play with my brother. So I thought it was like so cool that I guess, it's funny. The only other band that comes to mind that did that was that band Los Lonely Boys, who are actually from Texas as well, where it was like drummer, bass, guitar player, all brothers. And then correct me if I'm wrong, but then was his replacement your brother-in-law?
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
I know. And
keeping it in the family.
Yeah. Well, it was, because our sister was out on tour doing some assisting for the TM, and I think it was her idea. So it kind of worked out for a while where it was pretty cool. That's kind of a close to home sort of thing as well.
Yeah.
So that kind of made its way down the road as well, like I said. And hit a wall.
Yeah. Well,
As well. But it was great for a while. It was really good with Dean for a while. But and none of us are spring chickens. Touring's hard, and
bands are fucking hard, man.
And we can be hard on each other too. I'm sure I wasn't the sweetest guy to be around, every day, all day, every day. I mean, like, shit, dude. It's crazy though. Life is short, and we do need to like be at peace with as many people as we can. And I do know that. It's just that you can say it, but then actually that action to get there can be much more difficult. I mean, my dad actually just had a heart attack. So when you,
I'm sorry.
So on Monday you moved it. That was actually, I wasn't even in a great place.
I'm really sorry, man.
Yeah, it came out of the blue, So you like that was my point, sort of getting to life is short and you don't know. So really we do need to be, careful where we need to bury hatchets, bury hatchets when you can,
Does your brother still communicate with your folks? I would imagine so, maybe.
I guess.
Oh my God. If sometimes this podcast takes a turn, and I love it. I love that you and me can talk about things that aren't just nerdy guitar shit, because it's all a part of it, man. I think our lives and our lifestyles and our jobs get romanticized so much, and yes, it is a fairy tale existence. It is pixie dust and unicorns and rainbows, but the real work comes when you are dealing with other personalities and other folks, and you're living on top of them, and you cannot get away from them. The travel is what makes it difficult. It really is.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Travel gets harder as you sort of get, you've done it for so long.
Sure. It's not getting up and playing every night. That's the easy part,
Yeah. And I do feel for people that have to travel for a living that don't get that high that we get.
Right.
Well, if you're in some other industry or whatever, we at least get that hour and a half or whatever it is it's an instant gratification of like, oh, this is why we do it.
Yeah.
No matter what, to do that.
It's weird, like somebody that travels that, like, let's say anybody that's a flight attendant, or a pilot, or, they basically just travel constantly like you and I do, and it never ends. There's no payoff. It just, you travel and you stay the night, and you travel and you stay, it's like, that just seems like torture, I guess, a little bit,
It can, man. I mean, dude, and then like, oh geez, I won't even go down that road. Oh, man, no, but.
Well, so are you, I guess we'll switch it back to guitar a little bit. Are you, for the next tour, for this new stuff, are you going strictly amp profilers, or where are you at with that?
Yeah, no, I don't know yet. It's something we're just toying around with in the studio. We haven't done it live.
Oh, okay.
Ever.
Oh, wow.
But, we'll see as I learn more about it.
Yeah.
All that.
New record.
Yeah.
Who dis?
New record soon.
Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy. I'm going to send you a song. I'm just a couple days away from doing it because, I can send it to you rough if you want to hear it.
I'd love to hear it.
But, like, we're about to get it mixed. Is
it okay to announce to the folks? I think we just did that Chevelle have a new record coming out.
Yeah, we don't know when.
There you go.
But, we're hoping to get a single out there, like, real soon, like in the next month.
Cool. Well, everybody needs to listen for that.
If everybody in our team sort of agrees on which one that is. And, we're actually in the process of talking to managers again.
Oh.
I don't know, I think we talked about this before on the phone. Like, we don't have management at the moment.
Shit.
We've just been like rolling, dude, since 21. I think 20, 21, something like that. We just let everybody go. And
wow. Well, that's kind of refreshing too, though,
we have all the other team members,
Yeah.
agents, and we just started interviewing some management.
Oh, amazing. Good luck with that.
And that's hopefully going to be a good thing. We'll see.
That's also huge and monumental. with a new record and a new cycle and everything, it's good just to start fresh, Well, yeah. I'm sure everybody will needs to go and check out Chevelle when that record comes out. I can't wait to hear whatever you send. Wait, real quick. So at the end, because I don't want to keep you too long, do you have, and I ask everybody this, do you have something that got away? Do you have a piece of gear? If you listen to the Walter episode, he had like 1,000 things, but something that's gotten stolen or you had to hawk.
Well, we have been ripped off a few times on the road, actually in Dallas. That
sounds about right.
Epidemic, right? You know, they took our whole trailer. I think I've spoken about that on other interviews.
God damn.
But
they took your whole trailer?
It took the whole trailer.
See, I'm from there. I'm from there, so I can talk shit. So fuck those people.
Oh man. Yeah, that sucked. It was just a couple guys.
There was a sting in Houston. Like in Houston, they used to steal entire equipment trucks, trailers. They finally busted, or I think they busted whoever it was.
Yeah. So we had a shitty bus driver at the time, and he said, "Oh, I got to take the bus in to have service." And we were all getting off at a hotel, and he's like, "We're going to disconnect the trailer." And I remember my brother pleading with him and the TM pleading, "Hey, you cannot take this trailer off. It's going to get stolen if you drop it here in the parking lot." Sure enough, it did. And around 4 a.m. or whatever, some dudes just like rolled up, hooked it up, and dragged it out. Well, the thing weighed, who knows how much it weighed. It was full of gear. That shit is not light.
Right.
Their truck must have been bottoming out. Anyway, you know, we had to miss like a week of shows. In Houston for rock is bad. That's bad. Like the stations were pissed and they're like, just play on rented gear, whatever. And I was like, I can't. The shit is drop B and you know, it's going to be set up. You know, I can't just grab any guitar. Anyway, so long story short, they find the trailer and then the gears dispersed. All the guitars went every which way. And we lost a lot of stuff. But I get a letter sent to me to my home. I open up the letter. It's from a guy who says, "Hey, I was in a pawn shop. I saw this guitar. I flipped it over. I said, why is this guitar in this pawn shop? It had your name on it, custom built for me. And it was a white Paul Reed Smith."
No shit.
And he goes, "I'm going through a divorce and I don't want anyone to know that I bought property that was stolen. You know, I didn't pay a lot for it. The guy didn't know what he had." So he goes, "I'm just going to send it back to you." And I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
So I wrote a song about it called "Letter from a Thief," which is not entirely true. He wasn't the thief. Right. He was the nice guy, the nice chap who sent it back to me. But in my head, I was like, well, I thought it was a good topic for a track. And so I did get one of those guitars back. Actually, I got the Albini guitar back too, the red one.
Whoa.
That I tracked with for point number one. So I had a few, and we lost like all this gear. So kind of a positive story of like getting the two main PRSs back.
Holy shit.
Here's something I would ask you. Do you ever find that like you have so much gear at this point in your career? We've both been doing it for so long that you're just like, what am I going to do with this? Like, I have one kid, you know, a boy who hopefully wants to like look at this stuff and maybe like go through it.
Do some
but
of it.
After a while, you get all these guitars. I think it's time. I'm going to start unloading some of it. I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but I'm going to go to Reverb. And like we're going to start listing all this gear. I saw Pumpkins did it recently, and I was like, strangely, I was like, oh, I want to buy that.
Yeah.
But then I was also like, I don't want to buy any more gear, but I want to buy like something of the Pumpkins. So I was like, I think we're going to start putting gear out there and do a big like clean out.
Just do like a Chevelle page, you know? And then I noticed Justin Metal Johnson from, he played with Nine Inch Nails. He plays at Beck, St. Vincent. He did that, and it was like his Nine Inch Nails era rig and basses and stuff. You know, it's like
so cool.
Yeah, so many bands do that. Surge from Quicksand, also Deftones did that. You know, it's a great way to unload gear to fans that, you know, it means something to them. You know, I have thought about it. I really haven't done it, and I've also often thought about like I don't have kids, and so. My brother is sort of the executor of my will. So I guess it would just, since he's also a player, you know, it would just go to, if something, God forbid, ever happened to me before him,
right?
It would just go to him. But then he doesn't have kids either. So it's just kind of like, what the fuck? I don't know, man. I don't know what I would do with it. I would love to be able to set up something up where I just donate it to like a music school, like maybe an art magnet high school or an inner city,
Yeah.
program for kids that want to
Right.
play rock music, or a school of rock or something like that. I think that would be a really cool way to
Yeah.
unload it.
That is cool.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Well, Pete, we're at almost an hour, and I do not want to take more of your time, buddy. But I do want to say thank you so much for doing this. We got deep.
Yeah, a little bit, but I think it's hopefully more interesting for
Absolutely.
the peeps listening.
Well, that's how you and me. It's how we starting at the pandemic. It's kind of how we roll. We just get in there. We get in there.
We did. We talked about a lot of shit
we did
that we shouldn't air, I think.
Well, warts and all. Anyway, man. All right. Well, thank you so much, Pete.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime, dude.
Talk to you soon, buddy. What a good guy. And I didn't expect us to go there. We sort of opened up. That's the great thing about this podcast. There's certain times where we just talk about touring, we talk about being a musician, we talk about gear, stuff like that. Then there's times we talk about family and it gets deep, just like with Pete. But I wouldn't expect anything else. That's kind of the friendship we have forged. We go all in. And I really love that about my relationships with certain people, that we already have those sort of boundaries, and those things are just sort of gone. And maybe it's a TMI relationship where it's okay just to go wherever and they can deal with it. Pete and I have that. And I look forward to seeing him out there. We run into each other quite a bit. And yeah, what a great dude. He does cool things. So check out any Chevelle record. I'm going to leave you with, at the end, this is Chevelle's last record. He pronounced the name of this record. I think it's Neuradius. He pronounced it in this conversation, but I think that's what it is. This is the second song, So Long, Mother Earth. And man, the riff under his vocal on the chorus, the fact that he sings that and plays it live is just bananas. And also, just side note, this is one of the best bass tones I've ever heard on a record. And it's Pete playing the bass on this. I don't know if that's Pete or if it's their producer, Joe Barisi, or a little bit of everything, but Jesus Christ, this bass tone is insane. But yeah, check out these riffs. Pete is a master riff writer, and there's just every riff in this song is sort of just a grab bag of really cool ideas. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to thank the folks at Jim Dunlop and MXR Pedals. Find out what they're doing at jimdunlop.com. I'm going to give a shout out to the lovely folks over at DistroKid. They're helping independent musicians and artists get their records on streaming platforms, so they are doing the good work. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for checking out season 6 here of the Anti-Heroes podcast with me. I'm going to keep doing them, and I'll talk to you soon.